guys, it's Jessica from Peace Out Books, and same here with my February mid-month wrap-up. I have read 18 books for the first half of the month, and I didn't realize I went until the 15th for this, but February only has 28 days, so I technically should have gone with the 14th, but I went through the 15th and I read 18 books, and I've read a lot, and I feel like I've read a lot of like good things, but not like super 5-star reads, so I'll go ahead and get to all the romances I've read so far in February. The first book I read was Bittersweet Surrender by QB Tyler. She actually sent me a code for the Audible credit for the audiobook of this because it just came out in audio. This is the first book in a duet. I've not finished the duet yet, but this is a taboo romance because our heroine is married and she's having an affair with her marriage counselor. So we are popped into the book when our heroine is already having the affair, and it's not really a love triangle because it's pretty clear early on who her happily ever after is supposed to be with, like who she's really into, but I love the taboo aspect of this. It's definitely very steamy because that's QB Tyler, what she does, and our heroine is just trying to figure out what she wants out of her life because she has become dependent on her husband and she doesn't know what would happen if she's not married to him anymore. And the only thing that I wish we had out of this book was more of the marriage counselor's perspective and their establishment of their relationship. We kind of got that at the very end, but I would have loved that in the beginning to see them meet for the first time and not be able to ignore their connection, because we just are popped in when they're already physically connected to one another and falling for each other, but there was like a desperation in the romance where they are so into each other, and I love that about this romance. So I gave it 4 stars. I just wanted a little bit more with the establishment of the relationship, but other than that, it was such a fun book, and I can't wait to finish the duet, which I will soon, I promise. Then I listened to the audiobook of Surrender to Sin by Nicola Davidson. I saw Rachel from Rachel Reads and Sings talk about this. I think she mentioned her Hoopla had it, and so I was like, oh, I haven't even checked my Hoopla, so I checked it, and they have this entire series on audio, so I read the first 2. This one is, our heroine is a widow, and she thinks that she's fine to like live her life now, but her family has other plans and wants to marry her off again to someone who's awful, and so she decides to completely ruin her reputation and confronts our hero. The whole series centers around a pleasure club, and so she knows like what he's into, and so she decides to confront him and ask him for help, and he helps ruin her. And I thought this was a lot of fun. I did give it 4 to 5 stars because it's a novella, and I feel like their connection wasn't as established as I wanted it to be. Like, it was good, but it wasn't like amazing, though the second book was. But I enjoy the whole idea of like wanting to be ruined so that you're not forced into doing things by society, and so I really enjoy this one and the whole pleasure club aspect, and we get to see these characters actually in the next book, and then I'm pretty sure the Scottish man gets the 3rd book, and we've seen him a lot in the series as well. So if you want a short, fun time in a historical romance, I would definitely recommend picking this one up. Then I finished Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. This is a book that I teach my Enrich 10 class, so it's world literature. I teach this every year. I read this every year. This is like the 9th time I've read this book. I count it for my reading goal because I do reread the book every year with my kids. They have about 2 chapters a night, which is like 15 to 20 pages a night, and so yeah, not much to talk about this. I'm just telling you I read it, so I count it towards my goal, and I'm not going to rate it because it's a book I teach, so there you go. Then I picked up River of Shadows by Karina Halley. I was really excited to have a fantasy romance from Karina Halley because I love her contemporary, most of her contemporary, but I did not like her paranormal, so I was like, maybe a fantasy is where it's at. In the beginning, I was really enjoying our heroine. It's based off of Finnish mythology, and so our heroine goes to Finland for her father's funeral because her father dies, and she was really close with her father, but had to choose between living, I guess had to choose between living between her father and her mother in America, and so she's been staying with her mom a lot, and her dad dies, so she goes to his like hotel that he owns, and she is just so grief-stricken from losing her father. But then weird things start happening. She realizes her father was into some magical things. Her father's apprentice ends up helping take her to where death lives, and so they have to go on the River of Shadows to go to like the underworld basically, and she has to meet death. I really loved like her adventure on the river and going to death, because she also doesn't know if her father's really dead or not, because she's heard that he might be alive because he went to find death, and the whole premise sounded so good, but then the execution after halfway through was so boring, and I didn't really buy the relationship between our heroine and death because it was all physical, and I felt like she just gave in way too fast and gave up on her dad like right away, and I was like, you were spending the entire book wanting to help your dad and save him, and then once this one thing happens, you just like become this damsel in distress and don't do anything to do anything. And I was really annoyed, and it just got really boring and really slow. So I give this 3 stars. I was really excited about the beginning, and it just kind of like lost my interest, and I just didn't care, and I don't know if I want to pick up book 2. Like, I don't think I care enough to pick up book 2. Then I ended up buddy reading Ignite by Melanie Harlow with Tori from Novel Life, and we are both seeing Melanie Harlow at the signing we're going to in Nashville, so we're super excited for that. But this one I also heard from Logan from her TikTok, so I'll link Logan down below. But this one is a single dad firefighter neighbor age gap romance, Grump Sunshine. It has like all the tropes I love. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It was really nice and really fun. There were a couple things that bothered me, but our hero is a single dad, but he has his wife, but like she doesn't really trust him with the kids. He has 2 super adorable daughters, and he finally moves to this, I think it's a condo, and our heroine lives next door, and she is in her early 20s, and our hero is in his later 30s. And what happens is our heroine like swears off men because she falls in love too easily, and she's like, I need to stop. I'm gonna swear off men for the rest of the year. And her friend was like, I bet you that will not happen. And so our heroine meets our hero, and she's like, oh my gosh. And our hero though is like trying to take things seriously. He's like, I don't think I can love because he failed so miserably at his marriage. And I love their relationship and how there was just such an intense attraction between them. The daughters were hilarious. I really love their characters. I think I already said that, but how close they grow to her, and then they're kind of intertwined because they end up going to a party where they both attend. So they like know people who know each other and know them. So their lives are more intertwined than they think. I just had a lot of fun. I think the hero though near the end bothered me a little bit, so that's why I dropped this down 4 stars. He was being a little bit annoying about the whole relationship, but other than that, I think this had so many great tropes that all really worked well together. So 4 out of 5 stars. I definitely recommend picking this one up. Then I read Night Chaser by Amanda Boucher, and this is another 4-star read. So I had like good books, but nothing like 5-star blow me away. So this one, our heroine is, well, it's sci-fi. So our heroine is running away from the government because she's stealing things from them, and she steals this like lab from them. It's pretty much like Robin Hood in space. They're trying to like steal from the government, and she's taking these things to give to these like orphaned children to help them like be this illness kind of thing. And so she lands on this planet, and little does she know there's a huge bounty on her head. Our hero is actually a bounty hunter, and she doesn't know that, and she meets him wanting to fix up her ship. He agrees, and he realizes she's the one who this bounty is after, and he really needs money in order to get something back that he and his family lost. And they grow closer. They start falling for each other, and of course it's like, what does he do? Morally, he knows like he's falling for her. He can't, oh, is that annoying? Let me fix that. He's like, I'm falling for this woman, but like if I get what I've been searching for my whole life, like this could set me for life if I turn her in. And so there's secrets about who she is. It ends on a cliffhanger. I thought it was really fun. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't pick up sci-fi romance enough, and I feel like this was a really good sci-fi romance, and I would love to read more, and I would definitely want to pick up the second book sometime. Then I read Priest by Sierra Simone. This is the first book I picked up for reading TikTok's favorite romances of 2021. I will link that video down below, and this one was Logan's favorite, who I already mentioned before. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, so I was pleasantly surprised. I really liked Tyler's journey of grappling with why he was a priest and falling for someone when he knows he can't. And I really loved our heroine and how she kept on coming back to Tyler because she couldn't stay away, but they were both knew what they were doing was extremely wrong because he is a priest. But I was really annoyed with the heroine's actions at the end, and we only get Tyler's perspective. I would have really loved if it was dual perspective. We get like a couple of scenes from her perspective of like a page, but understanding her thinking and why she did what she did at the end, because what she did, she's like, I'm doing it to prevent this thing from happening, but her doing that created that thing happening. And I was like, that just defeated the entire purpose of what you were saying you made that decision for. So I was really annoyed by that, but definitely super steamy. Sierra Simone knows how to write a steamy romance, but I surprisingly really enjoy this. I just love a desperate romance where it's forbidden, but the characters cannot stay away from each other. So I really ended up enjoying reading this one. It is storming outside right now, so I hope you enjoy the rain ambiance if you can hear that. Then I read Ravishing the Heiress by Sherry Thomas. I saw everybody reading this book. I know that Crystal and Jen read it for their book club, and it had like very mixed reviews. It is a marriage of convenience, marriage in trouble romance, very pining, where our hero and our heroine have a marriage of convenience when they're really young, and our hero was in love with someone, and so now he had to have this marriage. The person he loved went and got married to someone else. Well, now it's like 10 years later, and the person he loved is now a widow. And so he's like, I can make her my mistress now and like I can be happy. This is amazing. Our heroine is heartbroken because she's fallen in love with him but hasn't told him. And they've been married for like 10 years. And so I thought this was okay. I gave it 3 stars. I feel like it was not romantic enough. Our hero did not even realize our heroine loved him until like the end. And that's then where we got the romance. I feel like it was so one-sided the entire time. And I was annoyed that these characters lived together for so long and actually genuinely became friends as a married couple, and she did nothing about her feelings. Like, she fell like in love at first sight with him and never did anything about their relationship. And I feel like also the romance he had with the woman before was like very innocent and kind of like a naive romance where they didn't really end up being able to fully have a romance before they were forced to marry other people. So like he was holding on to like this idea and dream of something that like he didn't even know, and he was obsessed with it and obsessed with being with her. And I was like, but you're gonna be abandoning your wife to go be with your mistress. And but they agree to spend like 6 months trying to have a baby together. So obviously that's when they fall for each other. But the timeline Tori had warned me was very weird because it flashes constantly back and forth, so I don't think the audio was the way to go because it was really hard to remember, are we in the past or the present? And I just like was not a fan of the romance. I was like, there's nothing here, and then he like suddenly realizes he loves her and that's it. And I was like, this was just annoying. So 3 out of 5 stars for me. Definitely had higher expectations and I was disappointed in the execution of this book. Then I got a new library card with a library in Ohio that has a huge catalog compared to my others. So all of the historical romances from 2021 that I missed are all on audio through their catalog, which I'm super excited about because I didn't get to these because my other libraries didn't have their audios. The first one is The Spinster and the Rake by Eva Devon. This one is a really fun romance, though someone pointed out like it's not really a spinster and a rake because she's like barely in her early 20s. She's not a spinster yet, and he's like not super rakish. I feel like the title isn't really the best, but our heroine is in this library and she is like reading the books in the library, and our hero comes in and he's dressed as a servant because he ruined his clothes because like all these women are throwing themselves at him because he's a duke and they want to marry him. He is on the autism spectrum, but they don't like explicitly state it in here because they didn't really have that title back then, but he just doesn't understand people that well and people really judge him because of it, and he just doesn't feel those kind of emotions that other people do, and there's like a really cute scene in here that I feel like Helen Huang's book have, especially I think the second book, where he like didn't understand why what he did was so upsetting to her, and he's like, what? I wanted to be alone. And she's like, but like that really hurt me. And so like they have to have those conversations. But anyways, he comes in looking like a servant and she doesn't believe that, she doesn't know who he is. And so he's like, get out of this place or I'll kiss you. And she's like, yeah, sure. And so they end up kissing and being caught, and she's ruined and they have to get married. So it's a marriage of convenience. This was really, really cute. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't like the most like mind-blowing, adorable romance ever, but I just really liked how sweet it was. It was very low angst. They really liked each other, and she kind of broke down his walls and really appreciated him for him, which he wasn't used to. He's used to people going after him for his money and not really understanding him or liking him. I really enjoyed it. 4 out of 5 stars. I definitely recommend reading it. Then the second book for that TikTok vlog, I read Business Casual by Danielle Allen. This was like one of my only 5-star reads this month. I love this book. It is an office romance, very forbidden. Our heroine is on her way to a interview with a really big business of a bank as the social media marketer, and she's really excited for the job, and she meets a guy in the lobby before her interview, and they immediately, it's like 100% attraction between them. They're like, I really like this person. And so he asks her out and she's like, okay, but she gets up to the interview and he's one of the owners of the company. And there's a huge non-fraternization clause in the contract because of something that happened in the company in the past. And so she's like, well, technically I'm not hired yet. So they agree to one night together before she's officially hired. Obviously that's not enough, and so they end up sneaking around, and it is so good. I loved our hero Trey and how just smitten and obsessed he was with her and how protective he was with her, and such a good forbidden romance. They kept on sneaking around and they're gonna get caught and they know they shouldn't do it, but they can't stop, and such a good romance. 5 stars. Love this. Could not recommend it enough. Then I picked up The Duke Goes Down by Sophie Jordan. Sophie Jordan's really hit or miss for me. This one was a 3-star read. Our heroine overhears our hero saying something about her and decides it's her life mission to ruin his life. So he's a duke, but society figures out he was born out of wedlock. His mother gave birth to him before she married his father. So his parents are married now, but she had him out of wedlock, and so he's stripped of his title of the duke, and so he is now just a lord, and he is like I need to marry wealthy. And our heroine decides to ruin every chance he has, spreads vile rumors about him. She's just nasty, and I feel like she was being way too petty and mean to him, and I don't like heroines who are just mean for no reason. I have another book I feel like on this list with that, and I'm just like, why are you being so rude? And it's just nothing else really happened in this book. Like, nothing. And so it was pretty boring. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. I feel like some Sophie Jordan books just have no plot, and I'm just like, I'm not really interested in this at all. So this one was unfortunately a miss for me, though the covers of book 2 and 3 are gorgeous. So book 2 comes out really soon, which I'm probably gonna read, but this one you can probably skip. Then I listened to the audiobook of The Devil's Submission by Nicola Davidson. This one is a marriage in trouble. Our heroine and our hero were married, and then they're kind of estranged, and so our heroine's mother runs like an etiquette school kind of thing where she's like, I'll get you like better chance in society of getting married, but then she's like, how can I run a business when my own daughter can't even have a successful marriage? And she like blames it on her weight because she's a little curvier. So our heroine is like, enough is enough, and she decides to like break down her husband's door and is like, I'm here to be your wife, and like, we need to fix this. And so the hero actually is part of that pleasure club that the hero from book 1 is from, and it ends up being that he needs something intimately that he is not willing to like talk to her about, and she learns about it and understands him emotionally and what he's been through, and it was so good. 5 stars. Like, this book did so much in such a short amount of time, and it's definitely super steamy and so much emotional connection between our characters, and I just loved our heroine's desire to just like want to be there for her husband, and I loved the growth in their connection, and it was just so good. Like, so good. Super short. It's like a 3-hour audiobook. You have to pick this up. Even if you don't love book 1, read this book, and I'm so excited to get to book 3. And then I listened to the audiobook of Lord of Wicked Temptations by Lorraine Heath. This is book 3 in the series, and this one is Rafe's book, who is the most damaged brother. So the brothers all were about to be killed by their uncle for the dukedom, because the uncle killed their dad and when they were young, like 11, 12, and so they all hid in a tower. And like book 1, the heroine of the book 1 was the one that helped them escape. So now that they're back in society, Rafe is the one that I feel like was most damaged from what happened. He was a child labor worker and had awful conditions, and so he really is damaged from that, and he is the one that's most closed off from his brothers, has the most resentment for what happened, and he sees our heroine being sold as a mistress, and he instantly feels protective over her and buys her. Our heroine's father died, and I believe she was like either born out of wedlock or born with another mother, so her brother's the one who sells her off because he's like, I don't like her and I don't want to deal with her, and so she thinks she's being sold off as marriage, and she really wants to have a family and have children, but then she realizes she's being sold off as a mistress and freaks out, but she moves in with him. It's very sweet, and I really liked how they grew closer, and she kind of broke down his walls and made him a little bit more vulnerable. So this one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoy this. I love a good damaged hero, so this one was a great conclusion to the series with a hero that I was really excited to get to. Then I read A Not So Meet Cute. I gave this 2 stars. I read it for that TikTok vlog. I just don't think Megan Quinn is the author for me. I don't think straight up rom-coms are for me. Nothing about this was funny. Our heroine gets fired from her job, and she needs a date to her high school reunion to show people she's not lame, and the hero lies to a client and says he's engaged and expecting because his client is engaged and expecting. He wants that account for his company, and he's like a billionaire, and so he literally runs into our heroine because our heroine decides to walk around a rich neighborhood to find a husband, and so they literally run into each other, and he's like, I need a fake fiance, you need a fake date for your thing, let's do it together. She is another heroine who is like extremely rude for no reason. She just decides to hate the hero and just like is mean to him, and then they fake date, obviously they fall for each other, they do all these over-the-top things, and then at the end, the hero figures something out and immediately blames the heroine, and he's like, I knew I could never trust you, a 3rd act breakup, and I'm like, this is dumb. I hate it when there is the 3rd act breakup because of miscommunication and because they won't talk it out, and there's jump to conclusions and negate every buildup of their relationship that has happened so far. Like, they learn to trust each other, and then he's like, oh, but I knew I could never trust you. One of my least favorite tropes in romances, so I was gonna give this 3 stars, and then the more I thought about it, I was like, I just didn't enjoy this. It took me like 4 or 5 days to read. I just can't. So 2 stars. Then I listened to the audiobook of The Scott Who Loved Me by Gina Conkle. I was really excited for this. Our hero was part of the Jacobite rebellion. He's in jail. Our heroine and him had a romance because she was supposed to be taken by him to her fiance. They fell in love in the process, but now it's like 8 years later and they haven't seen each other, and she is trying to track down this stolen Jacobite gold. So it's kind of like a heist plot. She helps him get out of jail and says, you need to help me, and this was so boring. I feel like I didn't really care about the romance romance. I would have loved some flashbacks to see the establishment of their romance, to really buy that connection between them, because like that sounds amazing. When they first fell in love, like give me that plot. We didn't get that. They just kind of like danced around each other, and then it took the entire book for them to like steal a key and get the key mold, and then we didn't even get the heist until the end. And I was like, this is so boring. I can't even tell you what else happened in the plot. It was like nothing else happened, and it was supposed to be this really fun and engaging book, and it failed to deliver. So 3 out of 5 stars for this one. Again, another disappointing historical. It wasn't like awful that I would give it to, but it was just boring, and I just wanted more from it. But the cover's super pretty, and I'm interested in book 2. Like, I'll give book 2 a shot, but this one, pretty disappointing. Then for my TikTok vlog, I read The Finish Line by Kate Stewart. This was a 4-star read. I think it's my favorite of the series, and more like 4.5. We got a lot of flashbacks of all of our characters, a couple that we've lost through the books, and so it was super emotional. And I think I only loved it because I was so deeply invested in these characters that this felt like it gave me all the emotions, and we get the conclusion to their romance, and the hero has to grovel so much because of what he did, and I really like that. But I feel like most of the plot was of the past, and there wasn't a lot of like current plot line happening until the very end, where like all these things happen back to back to back. So that's why I'm giving it more 4.5 star, because I wanted more so happening for the first like 2/3 of the book than what we got, because it was mostly focused on their past and why the hero was where he was and like what they were doing. I loved getting more answers because I was very confused about what these characters were up to and what they did in the past, and I appreciated how much the heroine matured throughout the series. She was very young in the first book. I didn't love that about her. She was very immature. Years have passed, and so she's definitely a much more mature character, and I really liked her in this book. So I think this might be my favorite of the series, and I can see why people love the series, especially once you've read all 3. You feel like, ah yes, like I really enjoyed that experience. So definitely recommend picking up the series. And then I listened to the audiobook of The Cloverleaf Chapel, and I don't know if the series is just not for me. I gave book 1 3 stars, this one 3 stars. Our hero and our heroine meet in Vegas, and I really enjoyed that. So they're like early 20s, they meet in Vegas and they get married. She wakes up, he's gone, and left a note that said, I'm sorry. 8 years pass, 10 years pass, 10 years pass, and she can't find him, and so she's moved on. She's been dating this guy for like 5 years, and she decides to up and move to Montana and be a teacher. And even though her boyfriend is still in New York, and they're still gonna date, I'm like, okay, who thought that would work out? But she ends up running into her husband, and they have to confront what happened. But immediately when they meet, he's like, I can't tell you why I left. There's no groveling, and then all of a sudden it's like, you have to go on dates with me, so she does. And I'm like, you don't have to go on dates with him. You're already dating someone else. And I just thought it was not good. And then they got together halfway through, so it was really boring after they got together. Like, they got together too soon for me. And there's a little bit of romantic suspense thrown at the end, which is what the series does, but I could have cared less about the romance. He didn't grovel at all. I thought his reason was pretty lackluster for leaving her and cutting off communication with her for 10 years. So 3 stars, not really impressed. Don't know if I should continue on. Let me know if it gets better, because I'm not impressed with the series. The last book I have is the last book for that TikTok vlog, and that is Lessons in Sin by Pam Godwin. I read 2 Priest romances this month, and I gave both of them 4 stars. I think I like this better than Priest. This one, our hero is like runs a school for troubled teens, troubled girls, and our heroine is a student there. She is 18, she's just a troublemaker. Her mom wants her to go there to clean up her act and stay out of trouble, and so our heroine is trying to do anything to get kicked out, including seducing the priest. He is such an interesting character. Magnus, I really love learning about him and why he became a priest. Similar to Tyler in Priest, they have their own demons and reasons why they became priests. And it's not because they wanted to be priests, it's because they feel guilty for something. And so I really love learning about his character, what he felt guilty over, and how our heroine was just so different for him, and why he felt so drawn to her and connected to her. And the ending was so good. I really love the ending. I think it's because I gave it 4 stars because like the beginning was good, but like I was like, okay, like what's gonna happen? And then I really love the conclusion. I left my bookmark in here. I really love the conclusion to their story and what he does and what he sacrifices for her, and it like kind of turned Mafia-esque by the end, and I really love that. So more like 4.5 stars. Like, I really ended up enjoying this book. And those are all the books that I read in the first half of February. Let me know in the comments what you guys read or what you thought of the books I read. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.